This is That One Audition with Alyshia Ochse.
You were getting ready, Behzad, to tell me some good stuff. What was up?
I was thinking I've had a long career and like a foundation and all these things, from representation to, transferring from theater to television and the Chicago to LA and sort of like also learning about the business and the contracts and the agents and the managers and the production companies and all of that stuff and unions. And I've had my hands sort of like in everything. So I'm happy to sort of let you guide a conversation. I'm happy to be here.
Well, that's what I'm excited about. Okay, so I was just explaining to you, like, having the new triple threat, right, with Anna. And Anna comes from conservatory training. She, a lot of people, there's two ways I feel like that end up happening with actors. One, myself, I'll put myself in this camp, little girl in the middle of Kentucky, don't want to date myself, but there was no internet around. So when I kept screaming that I want to be in the TV, my parents didn't know what to do with me. So they threw me into modeling. That was not the case. I just wanted to get out to LA as fast as possible. I didn't go the conservatory or MFA or get anything in acting because, God forbid, I do that. My parents would have flipped a lid, right? Like, what's your backup plan? What's your backup plan? So I didn't go for that. But as soon as I graduated, I came out to LA and I've learned, boots on the ground, every mistake you could possibly make, I've made. And why I'm at where I'm at now, and why I love to teach, is because a lot of people don't have that foundational practice. But then we got the flip side where people go to school for it. Yeah. And then you come out and you've become a student of acting, but where's the bridge from that to becoming a working actor? So I'm so curious if your foundational training, and I don't want you to put your school on blast. We don't have to name them if you don't, but I'm really curious, in all honesty, if that training prepared you to step into being a working actor.
I would say 50-50. And I also teach, and it's the same way. So for me, I went to Columbia College, Chicago. And I always knew that I wanted to be an actor as a kid because it was kind of different from the way you grew up. And this is even more different because I'm brown, and this never happens in like the South Asian community. But my mom and dad, the story you always hear is like, be a doctor, be a lawyer. But my mom and dad were like, go do theater. And they like put me in like pageants and like stuff like that.
Seriously?
So, yeah, like for real. Like my mom grew up in India, and she did in India at that time, every school was in English, colonialism and all that stuff. So my mom, in order to like learn English better, they put her in like Shakespeare classes. So you have these she was in an all-girls convent, and they would make them like recite Shakespeare. So my mom was doing like Lady Macbeth as a 12-year-old Indian woman.
Wow. And loving it, I'm sure. I'm loving
it and like winning competitions. And she has like this amazing picture of her as like, a teenager with this like plaque. And so when I was a kid, they put me in, the Wizard of Oz and the Royal Fairy Tale theaters and this and that. So I was doing school plays. And I went to Columbia College, Chicago, because they were keen on letting you perform. Like the teachers were working professionals, and there weren't the sort of rules that some of the other conservatories had, which were like, you can't perform till you're a junior, freshmen just do whatever. There were like no rules at this college.
Oh, great. There was no limitation to your accessibility to do things. Because some college, I don't agree with that. I understand their thought process, but if you can get plucked, even like Tom, we were talking about, if you can get plucked and into a profession, okay, why aren't you going to take that?
100%. And so they treated it like the real world. So there were the whole department, the whole school actually could audition for a show, and whoever got in, regardless of year. And so I was like, well, that's cool. That's like real world. So I went to that school, and they did do some things that prepared you for the real world. They had like a professional survival class where you would talk about auditions, and they would bring in casting directors, and they would bring in stuff like that. So it was cool. They even brought in like an accountant to teach you how to like do deductions,
Smart.
So that was a really cool class, and they did have those things. But I also, every single actor I've ever talked to after I graduated said like, my college program did not prepare me for life as an actor. But then part of me is like, but how could it possibly? Because it changes every year. It changes every 2 years.
Oh, yeah.
And these are teachers who live in whatever community the college is in. And they're like now been teaching for 40 years, and they just don't know. And
they're not a
so
working actor. They're a teacher of the craft of acting, of studying human behavior and being able to depict the realism of human behavior, great analytics of text, but really, yeah. Even today, like people that are coming out now, I feel like so much has adjusted, but now we're in the self-taping land. You don't even get to go in the room. You don't even get to meet the casting director anymore. The landscape has changed so much. And I do think, I'm sure a lot of the conservatories, I'm sure a lot of the training now has to implement an on-camera class, has to implement certain things. But once you graduated and you were kind of thrown out into the world, what are some of the first things that you learned to adapt? Because you went straight into theater. So that was my other question too, is because we're close to the same age. But so coming out of the school, I'm excited to hear, I'm going to step into theater instead of television or film. Just the passion for that.
So now I'm not going to name names, but I do teach. I do teach a scene study. I also am an acting coach on a TV show, and I run a program for a large production company in Hollywood, an acting track. And so I meet a lot of people who come from college, and the colleges they come from the best of the best of the best of the best of the best, and a lot of them don't know how to make a self-tape, and a lot of them don't understand the difference between auditioning for a multicam comedy on network TV and auditioning for a prestige drama on HBO. And when they'll be like, wait, but that's just good acting is good acting is good acting. And I was like, no. But sometimes there's right acting. And like, there's like this thing I always talk about. I'll run through it with you. Okay. So I'll be like, these actors are good, but they're not giving the right audition. They're just giving a good audition, but it might be the wrong audition. So I was like, all right, so I have you, and your line, your given circumstance is you enter your bedroom and you see that your significant other is cheating on you with your best friend. And your line is, oh my God, how could you? All right. That's the given circumstance. Oh my God, how could you? You walk in, you've been betrayed by the two people closest to you. Okay. How was that line given on a multicam on network TV?
Oh yeah.
And then how was that line given on a Netflix drama? And then how was that line given on an HBO prestige show? And then how was that line given on the CW? And how was that line given? So you could say, well, I did good acting, but you might have done the wrong acting.
Totally. Yeah.
Understanding.
Yeah. You can audition yourself out of a role by not knowing where this story is going to live. And I think that's the other thing that I find really interesting, even in this being called that one audition. Usually when actors come to an audition, they are, what's my character? What am I doing in this world? Where do I stand? How can I show what I'm showcasing? They're not going to story first. They're not going to where is the story living?
You fit in the world.
Yeah. A great moment of like, where can I be that transitional character? Of course. How am I serving story? So it's interesting. I feel like a lot of the training when you come out, yes, you really know how to create a beautiful character over like 4 or 5, 6, 7 weeks. But how do you do a 24-hour turnaround and
I love what you said. The way I say it is, what is the purpose of this scene in the script? So like when I get the audition and I'm like, okay, is this am I the doctor that is letting the audience know that this patient is gravely wounded and we only have 12 hours left? Okay, so that's the purpose. So the purpose is raise the stakes. Okay, cool. So now I have to come in with high stakes. The purpose is clearly state the severity of the injury. Okay, cool. You know what I mean? Or what is the purpose? And if we go in with that first, it's not, ooh, can I show them that I'm funny? Ooh, can I show them that I'm charming? Ooh, no, I just want to serve the purpose of the scene, because it's text first, it's story first.
Yes. Okay.
I didn't answer your question, which was about theater. For me, it was always theater. It was always theater. I remember being 21 and like having just graduated college and literally telling my friends, LA, I'm never going to LA. TV, that's not real. I'm not doing that. I'm a theater guy. I'm going to be an ensemble member of Steppenwolf, and I'm going to do this. And I'm going to do stage. I'm going to go Broadway. Like that was just That was my singular focus. And I did that for 10 years until television sort of happened to me.
Okay. So that's okay. So before we jump to the happenings to you, because
Sure.
I love this, and very rarely do I talk to people that are fully invested just in theater, because we've gotten to a certain place. So in being totally invested just in theater, graduating, being in Chicago, did you want to run to New York, or you're like, no, just the Midwest, the theater scene is just as poppin', and you've got a lot there. Like, what was your introduction into making a living, making ways, and doing exactly what you wanted to do in theater?
This shocks a lot of people, but if you're not a singer dancer, and I'm not, it's actually, in my opinion, easier to make a living in Chicago as an actor.
That's the point I wanted.
Yeah, and I did, like, for several years I made a living as an actor on stage in Chicago, and for me that was the dream. It's like, wow, I'm making a living as an actor on stage. And the reason why I say that is people don't often realize this, but yes, the Broadway contracts are big, but the majority of the plays that are happening in New York that are not on Broadway are at places like Second Stage and the Public and Lincoln Center LCT3 and Manhattan Theater Club and New York Theater Workshop, Roundabout. These are all like the nonprofit / for-profit production houses that do plays. I promise you, those weekly rates are very close to the Chicago weekly rates at the Goodman and Steppenwolf and Looking Glass and Timeline and Victory Gardens. They're very close, except the standard of living and cost of living is half in Chicago.
Yep.
So there's that. And then there's also, just like Tracy Letts famously said when he won his Tony, he said, Chicago is the cake. The play goes to New York to get the frosting, and then it goes to LA and gets sprinkles. But that's true. If I think of some of the greatest plays of like the last 20 years, a lot of them were developed in Chicago. I think, I don't know the number now, but I think something like half of the last 20 Pulitzer Prize winners were developed in Chicago. And so I loved being a part of new plays. And for me, I just dove in and became like the new play guy. I loved working with playwrights on a new play. And someone would ask me like, well, what's your dream role? And my response would be, hasn't been written yet. I'll do it in 2034. It'll be written in 2033,
Yes,
and it's
yes.
going to be dope. I don't know. And I'm excited.
So I'm curious, since you said that you love working with new plays and new playwrights and stuff, can you walk me through an audition where it's not where it is a brand new playwright, right? How are you controlling that audition, or how are you working in that audition that makes you feel collaborative? Does it help versus it being, like a Patrick Shanley or somebody who's like, you're like, oh my gosh, I'm getting to work on this play with this playwright, and you put in that pressurized system, right? I'm so curious, the audition process when it's a new playwright. Are you much more collaborative? How does the whole process work?
Definitely much more collaborative. I love working with new playwrights because of that collaboration, and that's what excites me about this work. But I'll give you an example. So two of the most meaningful shows I've ever done. One is called Disgraced, which I originated that play. I did it all over the country, did win the Pulitzer. And then a show called Samsara, which was the most fun I've ever had on stage. Both of those are new plays. Samsara was written by Lauren Yee and Disgraced by Ayad Akhtar. And the cool thing about it, I'll give you an example. Samsara is a play about surrogacy and sort of how Americans go abroad to find women to be surrogates for them, and like what that capitalism economy is like and all that. So it's a really quick play. And my character in this new play is a fetus. Like, my character is literally the fetus inside this actress who plays the woman who is surrogating the baby. And then the other two characters in the play are the actual genetic white couple that have each given DNA, that are a Bay Area couple that are going to India to get the surrogate. Okay. So that's this play. Now, it's a new play.
Yeah.
And it's a fetus.
How are you auditioning to play a fetus? Yes.
Yeah,
how do you approach your character development and script analysis here? I'm so curious.
Exactly. But what I love about it in this example is, I'm sure 50 guys auditioned, and I'm sure 50 guys had 50 different fetuses, because, and I mean, there are obviously words for the character and stuff like that, but like, what does, your opinion of a fetus. Like, what is that? But with a new play, there's no rules. There's no structure. You haven't seen it done before. Now, if I'm auditioning for Tom in the Glass Menagerie, it's like, I've seen it 15 times. I know what a great performance looks like. I know what a bad performance looks like. I know that I could kind of make it my own, but that's within the parameters of something that we just know and understand. But with the new play, you can't tell me what the fetus is because it hasn't been created yet.
I mean, are you going to use Look Who's Talking for inspiration? Like, where do we go with this? Where do we go with this? It's the only thing I'm like, where have we seen this before? What can you pull on? That's a real baby. And that was a baby.
Yeah.
They had a baby in there. Full on.
I mean, it was so fun. But one of my favorite things too is like talking with a playwright, talking with the director, talking with costumes. Like I remember even on that show, Samsara, talking with costumes because it's a new play for everybody. So talking with costumes, be like, well, what do you think, Behzad? Like, because you're the character, you're creating this. And I'm like, well, you know, so we actually like the costume itself pulled from different fabrics. So like it was like a schoolboy outfit, like a British schoolboy outfit, but like different fabrics for every different thing and different patterns. And then one thing I remember creating was like, okay, from the script, this baby is clearly a genius. It was like this baby had like downloaded an encyclopedia. This fetus is a genius fetus. But my sort of approach was like, but what if they don't understand concepts? They just understand things. So what if this baby like can tell you the quadratic equation, but doesn't understand what love is or death is or hate is or jealousy? It doesn't understand concepts yet because that's things that are learned. So it was just sort of like interesting. I love new plays. And then working on Disgrace is the same thing. Like,
hold on, before you go to that one, how did you audition as the fetus? Because we know that you got it. So what was your approach? Like you said, I love that. Okay, it's a genius fetus. So what was your approach and what did you kind of present that they bought?
It was a proscenium stage audition at Victory Gardens Theater. And so it was a big proscenium. It was like, I think at the time, like 390 seats, so pretty big. And I treated the entire proscenium as the womb. So I was literally like running to one end of the proscenium and like kind of creating a contraction and then running to it's not a contraction if you're not in labor. What is it? Just like what is it called?
You could feel the baby, like, and just a kick.
A kick.
Yeah.
So I was kind of like, whenever my character was like talking about sort of like what's going on in here, I was sort of creating kicks for the mother. And then sort of like being basically the most curious being one could be. Like everything was observation.
Smart. So you created a world and you gave a strong point of view.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Yeah. I was like, what if everything is observation? You know, yeah. And then I also think a big thing about auditioning, and this is something you miss from being in the room, but for a new play, is letting the playwright know that you're open to not knowing the answers and discovering it with the playwright. I don't think
that is kind of different than your audition for television and film. You can ask questions, but it feels like I'm curious I keep saying curious, but I am very, very, once you went from, okay, we're going to collaborate and I'm open to whatever you think as well. Was that able to translate into your auditions for television and film?
Yes, because what's great about a new play is during the preview process, Tuesday night, you get an email after your Tuesday night performance that says, here's new pages. Let's do this tomorrow. And you have to learn that. And then Wednesday night, it says, here's new pages. Let's learn this tomorrow. And then Friday, it's like, here's new pages. So the new play process is like, it's all collaborative for 4 weeks. And then it's like new pages, new pages, new pages, new pages. And being adaptable and being like, I'm gonna learn this new page. Let's put it in. Is very television and film.
It is very.
It's very like, we didn't get a chance to, like, do you know how many times it would be, we didn't get a chance to rehearse this scene, but here's the new pages, run it backstage, and then let's go. And that's television and film.
Completely. It is. It's a turn and burn. Even tapes, right? Here you go. Yeah. The one difference is that you've gotten weeks to kind of marinate in the character, marinate in possibility, marinate in questions. Whereas television, not so much film, but television is such a fast turnaround that you get that audition, you need to make those questions and those comments almost back to yourself within, 12 hours if you sleep, if you count that some time to sleep and eat. So you're not just cramming.
The thing you brought up something good that made me think is that with new plays and then also with television and film or a self-tape, you have to make a choice. You have to make a choice. And when you're auditioning, like I said, for Tom and Glass Menagerie, a lot of choices are kind of just naturally in. If I'm auditioning for All My Sons or A Streetcar Named Desire, there's some choices that are just in, like, what am I supposed to not scream Stella?
Right.
Like,
yeah, like, you're going to whisper cool. Stella. You're like, I'm making a different choice here. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. And so like, fine, you did a cool thing, dude. You're so subversive. But with these new plays, it's like, hey, let's make a choice. Like, what are you? I always tell the actors, it's like, bring something to the rehearsal and then let the director mold the paint on the canvas. But you had to bring some paint. And I feel the same way for a self-tape. It's like, okay, self-tape for, a guest star on a rom-com, and you might just be like the friend who's like, I don't like your new person. Okay, cool. But like, can you bring some paint to the art party?
I even take it a step further. When you go to get coached, bring paint. Don't come with a blank canvas being like, hi, can you help me? Like, no, right. I can help you turn up the dial on what's already present. But if there's nothing present, what are we doing here? You want to see my take on it? Okay, great. So then basically I'm the one who's going to be presenting the audition. So that's where I think acting, sometimes people get really confused on what's collaborative and what you have to make for choice and in order to be directable, in order to be coachable, in order to be collaborative. There still has to be a choice made, and I even said this the other day, oh gosh, it's just a strong choice is better than no. Like, it's basically strong choice is better than no choice. There's no right or wrong. There's just, oh, wow, that's not the direction I was going, but at least you were able. Okay, now I'm going to direct you over here. I wasn't thinking apples, at all. I was thinking oranges, but at least you picked a fruit. So let's do versus being like, here's air. I chose air.
100%. This might be hard to like listen to and understand without like the visual aid, but like I always tell my students in scene studies, like, if you're thinking about like a bust, those Roman busts that you'll see like in the museum, it's like, I'm not going to build it from clay. I'm not taking clay and like building a bust. What I want you to do is bring me the block of marble and then we'll just chip away at it. But you're bringing the material, you're bringing the marble, and then we'll chip away, we'll carve out an eye, we'll carve out a shape. But if you give me nothing, like you said, and I have to like from clay, it's not going to look great.
No, or it's going to be my essential take on it. And that's not necessarily going to be what activates your instrument. You and I handling the same text, same set asides, same play. It's going to be totally different. That's what's so great about it. That's what should be celebrated. I don't want to go to coach with you and have you give me your insight or essence. I want you to help me kind of turn on or turn up or turn down things that are within me so that it's my authentic take on what happens. Oh my gosh, I have so many places I want to go. Okay, I want to know how television then goes, hello, Behzad, we'd like you to come play. Because you decided, or did you decide after 10 years, you're like, you know what? I want to just try a different medium. No, you didn't at all.
And like, I don't know why I did this. I look back, I don't understand what was going on. I do maybe, but I actually fought it. I literally like actively fought like
the transition
and the transition. Yeah, I did, until I had a close friend kind of kicked me in the butt a little bit. But I was doing this play Disgrace, and I'd done it all over the country. And that was a lot of ups and downs. It wasn't just like this like amazing ride. Like, I didn't get productions I wanted, like Broadway, even though I originated it, right? And then, but I got some other productions because of, a whole bunch of, that'd be a 45-minute podcast. But I ended up doing it in LA at the Taper. And when I did it at the Taper in LA, I had the season in Chicago lined up that I had been dreaming about for 10 years. Like, for this plays. Was for plays. It was the season I had been dreaming about, at the theater companies I wanted to work with, the roles I wanted to do, the people I wanted to work with, the money I wanted to make. I had the most amazing apartment in Lincoln Square overlooking Wells Park. I mean, I just like, my life was so good and set in Chicago. And of course, the universe was like, nope, you're going to do something else. So I was like really excited to be doing my last version of Disgraced. I had done over 1,000 performances and I was like, I'm done. This is the last one I'm doing. I'm excited to do it in LA for the summer. And like the second to last week, some of the producers from How to Get Away with Murder saw it.
I was wondering how Shonda Land comes into your life because, yep, okay.
Yeah, they saw it. They contacted my Chicago theater agent, who was like, "You have a meeting tomorrow. Do you want to take it?" I said, "Well, yeah, of course. Why not? Let's take it." And I went into my first LA audition. I read the sides. I made a strong choice, and my strong choice was like this character. So my character in How to Get a Murder ended up being Simon Drake. I ended up doing between 20 and 30 episodes. 20 aired. But at the time, my first contract was called Pompous Face. It had like 3 lines. It was just a co-star. It had 3 lines. And I was like, well, the character was called Pompous Face, like in the script. It literally
it's so great.
Yeah. So and the other characters were like douche face, pencil neck. Like they were all like, that's what the characters were. So I was like, okay, like they're giving the archetype. I'm going to go for it. They want Pompous Face. And once again, I know for people who are listening and not seeing it, I made my face like I sucked a lemon and went pompous.
You went full,
I went full pompous.
Yeah.
And I like did the scene and I prepared and I learned it because it was my first LA audition and I booked it like 3 hours later, honestly. And then I was on set for 1 episode and that 1 episode turned to 2, turned to 3, turned to 4, turned to 5. I ended up doing 20 episodes, but I'll tell you this for people in the industry, every single contract was 1 at a time.
So that's actually because that's what's happening a lot now too. Now, How to Get Away with Murder, you got it's prime time, but a lot with these streamers, what's happening now is they'll say like, you're booked and this is your rate for all preceding episodes. And you're like, oh, so there's going to be more episodes, but they lock you in. So they don't quote unquote pay you more. And if they're one-offing you and they continue to one-off you, there's usually negotiations after 5 episodes. So at this point, was your Chicago agent still repping you, who's mostly in theater, doesn't deal with television credits much? And also, I'm sure you're not thinking do you even have the business knowledge at this point to go, oh, I've done 5 episodes. Maybe I could negotiate more or negotiate anything. Or you're still busy doing theater and you're like, great, these episodes.
It's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of both. My Chicago theater agent at the time, actually, she's amazing. And she actually did have some like LA clientele. And now she's got like a whole roster. She's still in Chicago. She's got a whole roster of LA people who've been series regulars. And she's got somebody on SNL and she's amazing. Right. So she's done all that. But at the time, it was a little newer. Some LA people. But I was savvy enough to know that I was being underpaid for a little bit. I was definitely savvy enough to know that I was the co-star. And I'm this type of person. And I think actors need to be a little more enterprising. But I was like, look, I don't know what's going on. I don't even know the difference between a co-star and a guest star right now. I don't know. But I will tell you what, now that I'm in this LA world, I'm going to learn. So I went to SAG because I was SAG already. So I went to SAG every day. And I talked to my SAG rep who was amazing, a guy named David White. He was amazing. Yep. And I talked to SAG and I learned the difference between a co-star and a guest star. And I learned that guest star actually affects plot. And by episode 4, I was affecting plot. And I was like, I was affecting Viola Davis's character. So I'm definitely affecting plot. So like, blah, blah, blah. And so then I got an LA manager by using my Chicago community, because guess what's awesome about working with new plays? When you work with new plays, you're working with playwrights who are alive. When you work with playwrights who are alive, they're also writing for television because they're alive. Like Shakespeare not writing for television. But I was working with playwrights who were alive and working for television. So I had some connects to people, and I asked some things and I got an LA manager who helped sort of negotiate the future contracts. And my number one advice for every actor, the day you get your first test for a series regular, I say, if you don't hire a lawyer on that series regular test deal, you have messed up. It's not just about money. It's about everything. It's about the per diems. It's about the trailer. It's about the call sheet number. It's about the weeks off. It's about, and it's like, just hire the lawyer. Just hire the lawyer. They're going to take 5%. If they get you 5.01% raise, it's worth it.
So worth it. So worth it. And they are negotiating things that sometimes even your agents don't know. And that's why I think once you get to a certain level too, your agents, just be honest, your agents aren't doing the negotiation. The lawyers are, and they're going to get, whether or not you have exclusivity. They're going to get whether or not you're able to be out for other things. They're going to get merchandising or certain things, derivatives that you might not be thinking of that people are still living off of today.
I auditioned for Aladdin, the movie, when it came out. Again, I don't sing, so I was never going to get it. But I did audition for it. And I thought to myself, I was thinking all that. I was like, I know I'm not going to get this, but if I do, they better negotiate the voice in a video game translated in Turkish. They better negotiate the billboard in India. They better negotiate the little Walmart figurine, all that. It's Aladdin. All that better be negotiated. Because you know what I mean? I don't want to be on the end of like a true Hollywood story.
I've been the end of that several times where my likeliness has been used that I signed off on 20 years ago. And now I'm seeing billboards and I'm like, what? Hold on. I think they owe me money. And I'm like, oh, damn it. No,
signed away. Yeah.
I, for $200, did a stock photography photo shoot 22 years ago, and now they're using it. So yes, this is where a lawyer is going to come in and protect your likeliness so that you are paid moving forward. So then on how to get away with
murder, I did not have a lawyer yet. It wasn't a series regular contract, so I didn't sign with a lawyer yet. But what was great about it is it did move up, and this was a perfect example of like also being likable on set, being prepared, being fast, prepped and fast on set.
Prepped and fast. It's the title of this episode. Prepped and fast.
Yeah. Like, and I don't mean speak fast, but I do mean that like, I think they knew that like, if we need Behzad's coverage, we can throw him in at the end of the day. He will get it in 15 minutes. Like he will get it. Like he will get it. Cause I was ready to go. And they could always kind of like rely on that. And so I turned from a unnamed co-star to a few episodes of that. And then a few episodes of guest star. And then a few episodes at Top of Show. And then coming in at Top of Show guest, and then breaking Top of Show. And I was like, so over the journey, it took some work. And it was worth it, but I learned so much. It was a masterclass, both on camera and off.
The business part of it. Yeah.
The business part of it was a masterclass. Being on camera and watching some Jimmy Smits and Liza Wheel and Viola Davis work is a masterclass. But then also like just, learning about how this whole system and like machinations run. And then like even the level of writers, what is a story editor? What is a co-EP? What is a showrunner? Like what is Shonda Rhimes' actual involvement in the show? What is Viola's involvement? What does it take to be number one on a call sheet? What is it like? And I just learned so much about the business. But for me, I do think like one of my biggest pieces of advice to all young actors is learn more about the business. Like learn more about what a production company does, what a studio does, what a network does. Read Deadline, read the trades. For me.
Well, and I'm so curious also where once you realize, oh, I'm actually producing guest star content. In order for you to get those raises and those bumps and those more responsibility and be energetically exchanged for more responsibility, was that your agent coming in, or was that you talking to SAG and then talking to your agent and then your agent then doing the due diligence, or did the show incrementally reward you or compensate? I shouldn't say reward, compensate.
Yeah. The show didn't necessarily initiate the conversations, but they did respond to the conversations when the conversations were had.
Fantastic. That's what I was
some of the conversations were nice, and some of the conversations I hear weren't as nice, but the conversations were had. It was a little bit of everything. It was like, well, I'm doing this. I'm enterprising, right? So like one time I was like making friends with one of these people. And so one of the prop guys who's amazing, and I forget this person's name, but this was I will never forget this person's face. They were so kind to me throughout the entire process. I just felt like they took care of me, and I don't even remember their name, which is unfortunate. But they once were like, hey, I hope I'm not getting anybody in trouble. They were like, hey, I need some pictures of your, like when you were a kid. I just need some pictures when you were a little kid. I was like, why? He was like, just. And I was like, oh, I see what was happening here. You're about to like build my bedroom for my character, aka I'm coming back next episode. Every single episode, I said goodbye to every cast member like I was never going to see them again because I didn't know. And then I wouldn't be in 2 episodes and come back. So when I was like, oh, you're building the character, and then I'm using my brain. I'm like, well, the cost for you guys to build this bedroom for my character probably cost more than I cost for 4 episodes. Yep. So I'm probably in it for a little bit to make that a financial decision that y'all made to make sense.
Smart.
So otherwise, why would you build it? You know what I mean? You could literally just put that scene in a car and call it a day. But you're building my character's bedroom, which means I'm gonna be around. Okay, if I'm gonna be around. So then I was able to go to my agent and be like, I think they're building my character's bedroom, so now's the time. You know what I mean?
This is such good, smart business sense. Now I want to pop it over to craft sense too, because I think that a lot of actors, their goal, like, I'm going to get a series regular. I'm going to get a series regular. How many times series regulars get backdoored? And what I mean by backdoored, meaning exactly the situation that you just had. I'm starting as like a nameless co-star, moving into story, moving the story along, moving type of guest star. But when you start a job like that, when you backdoor more responsibility as an actor in television, like you said, you're going week to week, you're getting new pages. So even if you're building this character over here, now every week you're like, oh, I thought I really liked women. Oh, okay. Now my character actually is way over here, different sexual orientation. I had my
that happened to Simon Drake.
Really?
That literally happened to Simon Drake. He and like after 18 episodes, he is bisexual.
Well, and that's the thing, right? So you could be going down this lane of like, I have these 2 beautiful parents and my character's background. Nope, actually you're an orphan. Comes episode 6, you've been an orphan the majority of your life. So I'm just saying, like, plot influences your character's building, but you're going week to week. Curious how your theater training kind of really supports television, where you're having to pivot and bring in really kind of concrete, big developmental foundational things for characters that then we have to change and pivot and layer in and add on, but you're responsible for this character. The audience doesn't know that, right? Oh, that the writers just decided that you're now an orphan. We'll just go with that, right? So how you've been playing somebody or how you've been constructing somebody may not have come from somebody who has abandonment issues, whatever it might be, right? So do you have any tools or things that you learned along the way that helped you with that long run that you didn't know?
Sometimes I think actors, we get so crafty and we get so sort of advanced in our tools that we forget the basics and the point. And I use this example from basketball. Is like NBA players actually are so good, and coaches at that level are so good at basketball that sometimes like you're under the basket, you're wide open, and you'll pass it far away because it's the right thing. It's the right pass. It was the right pass, like analytically and mathematically, and according to the play, it was the right thing to do. But for a split second, you were open under the basket, and the goal is to score. Like the goal is just to put the basketball in the hoop, and you didn't because you did the right thing. And sometimes I'm like, oh, now I'm worried about my face and the camera and the angle, and am I doing this look, and am I getting the posture right, and is my voice correct, and is my articulation correct, is my diction correct? And I'm like, okay, listen, what does my character want? What's stopping my character from getting it? And so what is my tactic to get around the obstacle? That is literally always going to be it. What do I want? What's stopping me from getting it? So how will I get around it? And if at that point, my line can be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Like it doesn't matter what the line is. And so sometimes when I get to that point where I'm like, wait a minute, so now it's this. Wait, that doesn't make sense because of this. Wait, wait, so now I have to add this in. I'm confused. I only have 10 minutes. No, no, no. What does my character want? My character wants to be chosen by this character for this project. What is stopping my character from getting it? The other character thinks that this person next to me is smarter than me. So what is my tactic to get around it? I'm either going to show that I'm smarter than this character, or whatever it is. Like I just, if you go back to the basics, you're like 90% there.
Yes, 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 yes. Okay, going from How to Get Away with Murder. I mean, you're working with Viola Davis. I would love to know 1, 2, 3, all the things that you learned from watching her, that you were able to take from that, because you go straight basically into The Chi. We have to talk about that. So
we're doing that at the same time, actually. And what was amazing is like Viola Davis once again proved this thing that I have found true in my entire career, that the people at the top, the tippity top, the people I've met that are like the Mount Rushmores of the industries have always been kind.
Always.
Everybody that I have met that has had attitude, that has been rough or tough to be around on set, anyone I've met that's been rude has not been those people. And it's been on, I've seen them all over my whole career, but it's never been those people. And I'm like, wow, that's kind of amazing. Like the nicest people I've met have been often number 1 or number 2 on the call sheet.
I'm so glad to hear that. She's a force.
She's amazing.
Force. Yeah.
She's absolutely amazing. She is a lesson in sort of like advocating for yourself, what you want and what you need, in a way that doesn't make anybody feel like you're demanding or rude or like a diva, but like also being like, no, but I actually want this thing or need this thing. And like the way she was able to like ask for things that she completely deserved, but in a way that didn't make anybody feel like they were like beneath her, is a masterclass. So I literally, there were multiple things where I'm like, when I am number 1 on the call sheet, I will do that, and there's another thing I tell, like when everyone's sitting around waiting to just like for first team to get called in, and you're sitting on their little chair.
Yep.
And you're just, what is everybody doing? Everyone's on their phone. Like every single person's on their phone. Nobody's talking to each other. We're just on our phone, scrolling Instagram or whatever. Whenever the first AD would come in and be like, we're ready for you. When I tell you within a split second, Viola's phone is down and she's walking. And so what does that do? That means, what are you going to do? Finish your text? Viola's not.
Right.
What are you going to do? Keep scrolling? And like, Viola's not. And you're like, if Viola Davis can stop her email to Spielberg or whatever, or her email to Denzel Washington, to like put her phone down and get to work, it sets the tone of like, well, I'm not going to finish my text to like my guys group chat. Like, yeah, I'm going to put my phone down and work too. And so it just like sets this tone of work. And I'm like, wow, that is truly the example of like leading by example. Yes. And then of course she's just amazing. Like she'll knock a scene out of the park. And one of my favorite things is we had a scene together, just the two of us. A lot of it got cut, but we had a scene together, two of us. And I've been prepping for like weeks. And she, of course, is not, because like, why would she? She's just doing a scene with me.
Right? Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so she comes in, she nails it. She messes up like one line, just like skips a word or something. And like, it doesn't matter. It's an incredible take. They call cut, and she looks at me and she goes, I'm sorry, I'll be better. And I was like, what?
Wow.
Like, but that's a level of, once again, acting like you're a human and that I'm a human, and that just because you're Viola Davis, it doesn't mean that you're like superior to me. Like she doesn't view herself as that. So therefore the humility to apologize to some guest star on the show. You know what I mean?
Or just her level of work ethic, right? So that's where I think the greats that I idolize are the ones that continue to put out great work over and over and over again. And those are the ones where I want to peer in and see the work ethic, right? Where I'm like, what are they doing? That was such I got to witness Lawrence Fishburne work for 6 weeks. Like I did a job with him, and watching him in between takes, watching him get pages, the 3-page monologue right before they call action, watching how he handles that. It's a seamstress. He's a seamstress, you know, he's been working for 50 years. So you can really observe somebody and how they handle a situation that allows them to work day in and day out and still have that work ethic of, I'm going to be better. I can do better this time. That's the hunger that keeps you going, I think, in this.
Another story I want to tell, because this person deserves their flowers. William Jackson Harper, the actor who's Chidi on The Good Place. I did a little episode on Good Place, and I went up to him because I'd seen him in a play years before at the Goodman. And I just wanted to tell him that I loved his performance before he was famous, before anybody knew who he was. So I'm talking to him. He was so kind, so gracious. We're having a little chat. And he's like asking me questions about Chicago theater and the Goodman and some people that we know and stuff like that. And we're just kind of like vibing. And he gets called away. And this was like, 7:30 in the morning. He gets called away from the makeup chair or whatever. And that's it. I do my scene, whatever. I'm back a couple days later to finish up the scene. And now it's been literally like 100 hours since that conversation has happened. And he walks over to me and he finds me and he picks up the conversation where we left off. So tell me, so then blah, 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 blah. And it, again, I was a like unnamed like guest star on the show. And this is the lead. And just like, it made me feel so welcomed, and like so much of this industry is about making you feel like your place in the hierarchy. If you're a co-star, we want you to feel like a co-star. If you're background, we want you to feel like a background. And some of these people who were like, no, you're a human being, you're an actor, and I respect you enough, and I'm going to come to you and I want to finish this conversation, which he did not need to do. I did not expect him to do it. It is something I'll always remember. I was like, wow, you were so kind that day and you made me feel welcomed. And there I was able to do my best work. That
I'm so glad you just gave that last little piece, because when I coach, when I teach, when I'm a guest on a show, they have a house. They built a house. I'm being invited in for dinner. And however I'm treated at dinner is how comfortable I'm going to be to laugh, to throw in some jokes, to have some ease of offering my own intellect or point of view on something. So I think that's one of the biggest things that I've always loved watching is how comfortable can you make somebody be in your house so they can do their best work, whether you're a co-star, a background artist, or a guest star, or whatever it might be. That comfortability is going to allow for everybody to create the best collaborative experience, because you're only as good as all the moving parts of the person across from you. And I don't think there's any small roles. That's what I teach all the time. There's no small roles. Even myself, when there's been stuff, I'm like, oh, well, the way I've changed my language, I could be responsible for a lot more on set, but yet this part in this story gets me excited. I'm so excited to, what am I going to learn by showing up and serving the story and only having quote unquote a few lines. Sometimes the hardest job to do on a set is the transitional character, the interjecting character, the one where you have like one line and there's 10 people running around, right? And doing all the things. So it's the hardest. Yeah.
There's a genius director named Kimberly Senior. She's a theater director primarily. She does a lot of Audible podcast and now television. She's amazing. But she has this thing she says. She goes, most writers, they have the day where they finish their script and then they go into a cabin somewhere and they go through the script with a black pen and they cross out everything that's not absolutely necessary. If there's a line, a character, a scene that is not absolutely necessary, they cut it. So now, if you have a role, the playwright determined that this is absolutely necessary, or it wouldn't be in there, whether it's 2 lines, 1 sentence, it is necessary. And if you don't know why it's necessary, or you think the role is too small, you haven't done enough work to figure out, because they would have cut it. They would have cut it.
Yes. That's the thing, right? Okay. So then you were doing How to Get Away with Murder and The Chi at the same time. Yeah. How does The Chi come into play? And was that just a normal, whatever, it's a Monday, here's an audition, I'm just going to throw it down because I'm working in theater and I'm already on a show.
Yeah.
So
but
no pressure.
I wanted it. So I sent in a tape for Chicago Casting, which does like the locals. And then I sent in like a message via my reps to LA casting that I was interested in the role, not really mentioning that I already had sent in a tape to Chicago casting. I kind of wanted to hit them from both sides. So then I was able to go in the room with Carmen Cuba casting, but I had sent a tape into the Chicago casting. And so I kind of hit them from both sides. I did the same audition, once in the room and once for the tape. And then, yeah, it sort of just happened. But balancing both the How to Get Away schedule with the Shy schedule did prove tough. And it was another lesson. It was really difficult, actually, because I had this beautiful storyline developing in the Shy that kind of just got gypped because of scheduling. Like it just couldn't, so it just kind of couldn't happen. But yeah, it was great. And now I'm actually working on the Shy again for season 5 and 6 as their acting coach.
Talk to me about that. So that's what I want. I was where I really wanted to work into with the Shy, where I'm like, you're working on the show and now they're having you listed as an acting consultant. So how does that happen?
Well, I started coaching Friends for free years ago. And it was just, again, what we talked about earlier, the right audition. Hey, you're doing great, but like it's the wrong tone. Watch the show. You know what I mean? So like, so I coaching Friends, and then coaching Friends leads to sort of a word of mouth. People start booking. People would book and book and book. And then people would say, well, who'd you work with? And then casting started to know. So sometimes what started to happen was casting was calling me to work with their choices. Because what people don't realize is like casting has choices, then the network has choices, then the writer might have choices, and everybody has their choices, which get sent to the sort of higher up executives that end up, making decisions. So sometimes casting, like, we have a choice. Will you work with our choices? And I was like, yeah, I'll work with your choices to make their audition better to send to the powers that be. So I started working with those people. And then, the Hillman Grad Mentorship Lab, which is Lena Waithe's mentorship lab, has 3 tracks: a writing track, an acting track, and a executive producing track. So I got asked to sort of interview for the job to lead the acting track, which I loved doing. I was still coaching people, and I started working with 1 or 2 people on the Shy. The performances improved a lot. So then I got the job to do the whole season. Last season, I did about 5 actors an episode. This season, I'm doing about 20 actors an episode. So we're really just like, and it's interesting. The Hillman Grad Mentorship Lab is really preparing actors to sort of enter the industry. So it's a lot of business and industry as well as craft. My scene study is craft. It's just a totally different type of thing. It's theater, it's words, it's a muscle, it's going to the gym. There's no performance, there's no goal. We're just working out. We're just working out. But then acting coaching is it's a separate thing yet again, because acting coaching on a show is, I'm not trying to change your acting. I'm not trying to make you a better actor. We're just trying to say like, hey, you might have missed this beat.
Well, that was going to be my question, especially for series regulars. And you don't have to name, I don't want you to name anybody on there, but somebody that's gotten hired to do a series regular job. Okay. You and I both are working actors, that takes the cake for what your pocket's going to be filled with. We kind of, you're the struggling quote unquote actor for so many years. You finally get to a place where I know I have more than enough to be responsible for a series regular job, but also I'm a mother. That would be great to have in my pocket. A lot of times people land these jobs and they maybe don't have enough time to understand their responsibility, or I'm going to go to the other side of this too, where they are a series regular. They are getting new pages every single night. They are on set 12, 14, 16, 18 hours. They're exhausted. They just finished 6, 7 pages that day and they have to turn around and do it the next day. So I'm curious where you kind of fill in for, like you said, is it just like little moments that they're missing? Or what do you see as an overall tone that you're kind of coming in and consulting, right?
Yeah, like I'm working with everybody, right? So I'm working with some people who've never been on camera before. Like I'm working with some people who literally it's their first guest star ever. I'm also working with the series regulars who are incredible, and I think it's a lot about the approach. So the first thing I say is like, and this is true, I'm not just saying it, I mean it, is that you're already great. You're giving a 9 out of 10 performance every week. Everyone's happy with you. Everyone loves you. You're doing great. I'm not here because you're in trouble. I'm here because let's try to make it a 9.5 out of 10. Like, why not? And I always like Steph Curry is the greatest shooter of all time and has a shooting coach still to this day. Steph is playing the Lakers tomorrow, and all day long he will be shooting in front of a shooting coach Like, and the shooting coach is not a better shooter than Steph. The shooting coach is just there to be like, well, your elbow was out on that shot. Just tuck your elbow and remember. Or, hey, the spin was a little slow, faster spin, you know? Again, that doesn't mean the coach is better than Steph. So I'm like, I'm not a better actor than you. I'm not trying to be a better actor than you. I'm not trying to make you a better actor. I'm just here to say, I think what's happening is like you're telegraphing the end of the scene here. Like, what if you try to keep a lid on the anger here and not let it out until the end of the scene? We can try it. Let's see if it works. And the 9 times out of 10, they're like, I'll try it. And it's like, okay, cool, try it. And now if you get on set, do it or don't, but at least you've done 2 versions of it so that you're kind of not in this, you're not in a robotic read and you're open to it. And I often say this too, is like Denzel Washington, Tom Hanks, Meryl Streep, like Cate Blanchett. Yeah, they're masters. They're absolute masters. I still think if I was coaching them, I'm not saying I'm better than them. I'm saying it's an outside eye. And this is not arrogance. I'm just saying if like Denzel Washington was in front of me and he was doing a speech, it's just someone else being like, that was obviously incredible. That was obviously incredible. Have you thought about XYZ? Have you thought about like more modulation here on this beat? You know, it's just a thought and you can take it or not. And so acting coaching is a little different than scene study, a little different than the Hillman grad thing. And it's all sort of different aspects of teaching, but I really enjoy it and I really love it. And I think it helps.
I think it helps so much too. I think sometimes just outside in approach where you're like, it's the actors that say they don't watch themselves. How the hell can you not? How can you not? Even like go back to the athletes approach. They watch game tapes constantly. They're watching themselves constantly to be like, I know you told me to put my elbow in. Damn it. I saw my elbow come out 7 times during that game. Okay. I need to work on that. I'm going to work on that. I'm going to work on that. You can see something that I can't see. If I'm not behind monitor and somebody comes up and gives me a note, hey, we'd like you to be a little bit more, can you explode on them a little bit by the end of the scene? I thought I was. Okay. Yeah. You have somebody else who has eyes on, well, it didn't read that way. Oh, okay, great.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
You thought you were giving concern, but you were giving anger. And I know that by watching myself and going, oh, I furrowed my brow and it looks like anger, but I was trying to give concern. Okay, cool. Now I know that. So let me change that. What is another way to give concern?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I think that's part of also what we teach all the time too, is don't seek to repeat. I think a lot of actors, especially newer actors or let's say actors that have had a lot of responsibility and they're tired. They give a performance. Okay, let's do it again. They give the same performance. Okay, let's do it again. All right. You know what? You're giving nothing for the editor to build upon. Like you're giving what if they, that one eyebrow raise? Oh, damn, that was good. You're giving the writers an idea for the next 6 episodes. All of a sudden they're like, you know what? We're going to do da, 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 da. But if you're not giving variation, if you're not giving discovery, that's also how I like to put it. If you're seeking to repeat, you're not discovering anything. And part of your work is not falling flat. It just is, just by 100%. Human nature. So having somebody to kind of play tennis with, you're hitting the ball over the net. You're like, hey, try this way. Hey, try this way. I love this. I love that you get this opportunity to develop and hone in on other people. Has it helped you be able 100%. To do it for yourself? Are you able to do the same thing that you're able to consult other actors? Are you able to turn around and do it in yourself without visually watching? Or do you have to go watch playback and then go, oh, okay, let me do that.
I definitely learn a lot. I've learned a lot too, just because with that job, I'm sort of like in the producerial role in which I'm on the emails. So now I'm seeing like I'm seeing cuts. I'm seeing dailies. Actors don't get a chance to see dailies. We don't get a chance to see cuts. So like seeing a director's cut and then seeing a studio network cut and then seeing a producer's cut, I'm like, oh, like what each person valued, you know what I mean? More, and like where our performance fits in. And so I'm learning a lot from that, but like, yeah, I think as you teach, you learn. I think my least favorite quote is like, those who can't do teach. It's like the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my entire life. Every single amazing teacher I've ever had also is a professional and does the thing. Every single one.
Some of the greatest teachers have walked the lane or are still in the lane, so you can keep your teaching relevant and timely. You know, really what it comes down to is so much has changed in the industry thus far. How we tell stories on television has changed. What we value in films, how theater is constructed. What an incredible body of work to be able to transition from so many different ways of telling story and studying the human condition that you are. I mean, this is going to be a hell of a career for you. Like I feel like you're just starting.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. I mean, what's cool about it is like when you're teaching and you're working with every day is a different level of actor constantly. And I'm always thinking, this is the same note really, but how do I give this note in a way that this will be understood for where this actor is at or what this actor does? Sometimes it's analogy. Sometimes it's a exercise that leads them into it. Sometimes it's this. And then I go, okay, cool. So what I'm basically doing is finding a way to deliver a note. What is acting? Finding a way to deliver a story, finding a way to deliver a theme. So it's like, okay, well, where's my audience? It's literally the same. It's the same, like, I don't know. It's the same objective really, is communication, clear and effective communication that is able to be understood, but just like, what's the goal? And so, yeah, naturally it makes me a better storyteller because it's like, I have to make this person understand it. And who is this person compared to that person, compared to that person, compared to that person?
Which is what you're doing all the time in storytelling. Who is this person? Where do they fit in the story? Behzad, this is so enjoyable. I think being on a set with you would be remarkable, whether that's sharing the screen with you or being able to play a game. We're literally playing the game of life here. And let's see, does this work? Does this work? Does that work? I'm so incredibly grateful that I got to hear bits and pieces of your journey. Where can
Thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. Are you kidding? Come back, please. Where can everybody find you if they want to play with you? Where can they come and play and all the good things that are out and running too?
Okay, so it's just my name on all the socials. It's at BehzadDabu on Instagram and on Twitter. The Hillman grad year this year is locked up, but we'll have another year next year. I teach scene study at the Last Acting Studio. And yeah, that's that for teaching. And then for acting jobs and things like that, you can reach out to me or my IMDb.
And then the Chi is still no.
Yeah, the Chi is still in production. So we're on season 6 now. I think we're taking a brief pause for the writer's strike. But it's gonna be a really good season 6.
Yeah. Do we have a start time for it yet?
I don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Happy writer strike. We'll see.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know that. But I know we've shot about half the season as of last week. So
amazing. This was great. Thank you.
Thank you so much.